Heartwarming rescue. Waitress's touching plea to Mafia boss exposed an incredible life-changing moment in the heart of Millville, where dreams once painted the skyline. The flickering neon of the diner served as a beacon for weary souls. Mia, a 28-year-old waitress, worked double shifts, determination etched across her face as she juggled coffee pots like they were her hopes, always boiling just beneath the surface. Every night, she poured coffee into chipped mugs, smiling through the exhaustion, fueled by the need to keep her ailing mother comfortable while navigating the sinking economic tides. The diner was more than a job, it was her lifeline. One restless evening, as the diner buzzed with familiar clinks of silverware and the murmurs of old friends, Mia caught a sharp edge in Tony's voice, a regular at the counter. Known as a notorious mafia boss, he sat in solitude, arguing on the phone with growing desperation. Her heart tightened at the sound of his voice, raw and anguished, revealing layers of a man burdened by the weight of family pain. "You don't understand. I can't lose him too," he pleaded, his brow furrowed, despair radiating around him. Mia felt her chest tighten. She had seen countless struggles in this town, but this was different. She related to the pain, the fight for family in a world that turned its back. Something inside her stirred. The bartender at the opposite end raised a brow in surprise, as if he sensed the shift in the air. Before she knew it, she found herself approaching Tony, her pulse racing. I heard you talking. About your son." The words spilled from her lips, desperate and raw. "I can't pretend to know what you're going through, but you're not alone in this fight." The diner's chatter faded, all eyes subtly shifting towards the unexpected exchange. Surprisingly, instead of the hostility she feared, Tony met her gaze, something softer lingering behind the cold exterior. You really care?" he asked. The vulnerability in his voice disarmed her. It was almost beautiful. They shared a moment, bonded by the shared weight of love and loss, a bond that crossed the boundaries of their worlds. The diner's clock ticked louder, puncturing the fragile moment as Mia realized the implications of her leap of faith. Her mind raced. Helping Tony could mean stepping into a dangerous game she couldn't control. Yet, she felt courageous, emboldened by the hope that perhaps they could lift each other from their burdens. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing day, Mia's reality began to blur. The diner, once a cocoon of comfort, morphed into a battleground of morality and loyalty. She found herself advocating for justice against the injustices pouring into Millville. The community needed her, but so did Tony's son. As they navigated this tangled web together, tension curled in the corners like smoke. Mia's heart raced with uncertainty. Should she turn her back on a man entangled in crime? Was her loyalty to her family and community worth endangering it further? There lay before her an uncertain future, and with each pressing moment, Mia felt a storm brewing. With determination, she stood up, facing the fears that stood in her way, ready to confront not only Tony, but also the deep-seated issues that haunted her town. Everyone in Millville would watch, waiting for the outcome that could change everything. Together, they stepped into a new reality, one defined by hard choices and desperate hope. As she leaned against the counter, shivers ran up her spine, connected to a truth she could no longer ignore. Redemption didn't just belong to the lost, it whispered for those brave enough to listen. Mia woke up the next morning with a pit in her stomach. The weight of her choice hung heavy. She had never imagined standing on the precipice of such turmoil, and the diner felt different now. The familiar sounds of clinking dishes and bustling patrons transformed into a cacophony of doubts and judgments. As she brewed coffee, her mind raced back to Tony's face, searching for something she could never quite grasp. It was a blend of guilt and hope, a man branded by the past, desperately yearning for redemption. She knew stepping forward might draw her closer to danger, but the thought of a boy suffering alone ignited her determination. "Hey, Mia. You good?" Sarah, the dishwasher, asked as she walked by, pulling Mia from her thoughts. "Yeah, just tired," Mia replied, forcing a smile. Inside, her heart thudded loudly, knowing the battle she faced wasn't just physical exhaustion. Then the bell above the diner's door jangled, and in walked Tony, donning his usual leather jacket, but today he looked a little different. There was something fragile in his demeanor, less fierce, more vulnerable. He sat at the end of the bar, isolation wrapping around him like a shroud. Mia swallowed hard, recalling their last encounter. Taking a deep breath, she felt her legs carry her towards him. "Hey," she started, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm sorry about the other night," he mumbled, his voice low. "I didn't mean to, you know." "It's okay," Mia said, surprised by the softness in her tone. She leaned closer, her heart racing. "You're under a lot of pressure. Maybe it's okay to ask for help." Tony's eyes flickered, a storm brewing behind them. "Help? This world doesn't do help. It does deals, trades, and sacrifices." He shook his head, the anger buried just beneath the surface. "My son doesn't have time for help." "Then let us change that," Mia whispered, a spark igniting within her. "You can't fight this alone. Let us find a way to get him the help he needs." The silence hung heavy between them, then a flicker of something, maybe hope, passed through Tony's eyes. "You really mean that?" "Yes," she assured him, feeling a swell of conviction. "We have to try." Just then, the telephone behind the counter rang, piercing the moment. Mia reluctantly turned to answer, but cast a glance back at Tony. His expression was shifting, shadows of doubt still dancing across his features. "Hello," she answered, trying to keep her tone light despite the tension. A voice echoed on the line, filled with urgency. "Mia, you need to get out of the diner. Now." Her breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "Just listen. There's trouble. You're in the crosshairs. Get Tony and get out." The line went dead. Panic surged through her. She glanced at Tony, whose gaze had darkened, eyes tinged with suspicion. Whatever was happening loomed like a storm gathering just beyond reach. "Mia?" he asked, noticing her ashen face. What was that about? She didn't know how to explain. The precarious world they were in had just tilted further toward chaos. Her heart pounded, fear gnawing at her courage. I think we might be in danger," she stammered. Before she could say more, footsteps thundered outside the diner, loud and threatening. "Tony. We need to go." Panic flooded her voice. The door burst open, and a group of men stepped inside, intentions clear in their eyes. As the din fell silent, Mia felt the wave crash down. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact of what this could mean for both of them. And in that heartbeat, she realized, the stakes had risen, and they were now entangled in something far beyond their control. Would they be able to face it together? Or was this where their paths would diverge dangerously? As the tension mounted, Mia's thoughts spun wildly. She had no idea what choices lay ahead, but one thing was certain, the fight for what mattered was far from over. The men crowded into the diner, shadows swallowing the sunlight that had just spilled through the door. Their presence was heavy, like a thick cloud of foreboding. Mia's heart raced as she instinctively moved closer to Tony, desperation driving her toward anyone she thought could shield her from this impending storm. "Get out!" one of the men barked, his voice smooth but laced with a threat. He scanned the diner, brazen and commanding, while his gaze landed on Mia and Tony. Something dark flickered in his eyes, a glimmer of recognition. "You," he pointed at Tony, "think you can just walk away from us?" Tony's expression hardened, anger and fear mixing into a storm on his face. "I don't owe you anything," he shot back, his voice steady although Mia could feel the tension coiling in the air. Mia clutched the edge of the counter, her palms sweating. "Tony," she whispered, urging him to reconsider. The risk of standing his ground loomed larger now, shadows from the men threatening to envelop them both. "Back off!" Tony shouted, stepping forward, muscles tensed and breathing heavy. "Whatever you want, I'm done with it." A dangerous smirk curved the intruder's lips, a sinister promise lying beneath. "You think you can do this alone? You should remember the price of turning your back," he warned, leaning closer, invading Tony's space. Panic surged through Mia as she grabbed Tony's arm. "Please, don't fuel this fire," she implored. "They won't let you go that easily." Tony shot her a glance, one that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of the choice they faced. He turned back to the men, defiance glimmering in his eyes. "I won't be scared back into submission." Before the tension could crack into violence, Mia felt movement behind her. She turned slowly, her eyes catching the curious glares of the other patrons, frozen in their seats like deer caught in headlights. They were onlookers to a trial she had never wanted to partake in, the weight of her own choices pressing down harder. Tony's voice softened. "We need to go. Now." But Mia shook her head, refusing to let their fate spiral at this moment. "No. If we run, they'll chase us. We have to find a way to reason with them." "Mia, this isn't about reasoning. It's life or death," he warned, his face inches from hers, urgency clawing at each word. Suddenly, the other men shifted, stepping forward strategically, blocking any chance of escape. The air tightened, and the inevitable clash loomed like a thundercloud ready to burst. "Enough!" shouted the leader, a quick gesture silencing any further resistance. "You've made your choice, Tony. Now, live with it." Mia's heart sank. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but the risks swirled around her, each option weighing heavily against her chest. In that moment, she felt a spark of something unexpected. No longer could fear dictate her choices. She locked eyes with Tony, a silent agreement cascading between them. This fight, whatever the outcome, was something they would face together. "Maybe you're right," Mia said, taking a breath, courage unfurling within her. "But there's more power in standing together than you realize. We might surprise you." The men shifted, taken aback. For a heart-stopping moment, time froze. Would they understand her plea, or would they seize the moment as an opportunity to strike? The tension in the diner was palpable, thick enough to cut. As silence draped over them, Mia felt the world pivot beneath her feet. Tony looked at her, confusion etched on his brow mixed with dawning admiration. "You're bold. I didn't see that in you before you haven't seen the full extent of what I can do," Mia replied, determination saturating her voice. "Together, we can find a way out of this." But before she could fully grasp the weight of her words, the leader's cold laugh rippled through the air. "Together? You think unity will save you from us?" Mia swallowed hard, knowing that the answer might lead them closer to an end they weren't prepared for. As she steadied herself, remembering the stakes ahead, she realized one truth: danger was now an unyielding companion. Would it bring them together, or tear them farther apart? What unfolded next would change everything, pushing them to the edge. As their fate tightened like a noose, the defining moment crept closer, and all Mia could do was hope that this perilous dance wouldn't end in a tragedy she couldn't bear. Mia felt the air grow thicker, a tangible weight pressing down on her as the leader's laughter resonated in the diner. The crowd was still, but she could sense their hearts racing, breaths held in collective anticipation. Every second stretched, becoming an eternity. "Do you think your courage means anything to me?" The leader sneered, stepping forward. His men flanked him, their expressions twisted with malice, the flickering neon signs outside casting eerie reflections across their faces. It felt as if they were all trapped in a terrible movie, one that would have a bloody ending. Mia glanced at Tony, who regarded her with an intensity that both thrilled and frightened her. "Talk to me," she breathed, urgency mounting. "We can outsmart them." Tony shook his head, frustration flaring in his eyes. "It's not about being smart, Mia. These guys follow their own rules, and they don't play nice." "Then we rewrite the rules," she insisted, clenching her fists. "We use their expectations against them. They think we're scared, but what if we show we're not afraid to stand?" A flicker of hesitation crossed Tony's face, but the leader interrupted, his sneer deepening. "Save the heroics for the movies, girl. You either bow or you bleed." The words hung ominously. The gravity of the situation pulled at Mia's insides, igniting a fierce determination. She released Tony's arm, stepping forward even as her heart pounded. She needed to take a stand, not just for herself and Tony, but for everyone in that diner. "Let us not pretend this is a fair fight," she called out, her voice steadying as she focused on the leader. "You know it's not just about you and Tony. We're tired of running. All of us." Those words struck a nerve. A murmur spread among the patrons, soft but growing. It threaded through the silence, a ripple of defiance against the pervasive fear. People shifted in their seats, inspired by her audacity that was seeping into the creases of their cowardice. The leader's brow furrowed. "What do you think you can do, Mia? You're just a waitress playing hero." "Maybe, but this waitress has seen enough to know the truth," she shot back, confidence fortifying her resolve. "You might think you have control over us, but we're not mere pawns in your game." She paused, glancing at the others, gathering her strength. "I refuse to let fear define my decisions. You can't take what I want to give. If you want to fight, then we'll be ready. Together." A pause followed, and for a moment, an understanding crackled in the air, muddled by uncertainty. Tony's features softened, his admiration cementing into something deeper. She caught the flicker of hope in his eyes, nourishing the bond that had sparked between them. But the leader shook off the moment, redirection lurking. "You still don't get it, do you? I have the upper hand here. And before long, you'll be wishing you had just walked away." Mia felt a chill creep over her. It was clear he was willing to escalate this. A glance back at the patrons revealed a mix of fear, and the early sparks of rebellion shining through. "Listen," she said, voice ringing with urgency, "it doesn't have to end this way. Let us sit down. We can talk this out, no more talks." The leader barked, raising a fist. "One more word, and I'll show you exactly how our talks end." Adrenaline surged through Mia, as she recognized the danger edging closer. The watchers held their breaths, the moment hanging in a perilous balance. A crack of thunder resounded outside, a storm gathering strength, mirroring the tension in the diner. Mia held her ground, igniting a spark in Tony's determination beside her. Whatever they unleash next, they would face it as a united force, their backs pressed against each other in defiance. "Are you ready to fight?" she whispered to Tony, her heart crashing against her ribs. "Yes," he replied, a fierce glimmer lighting his eyes. "No backing down now." With a single nod, everything came rushing toward a decision. The weight of the moment descended as the leader surveyed the onset of bravery, uncertainty etched across his face for the first time. And Mia felt a push in her chest, both fear and excitement mingling into a dangerous cocktail. This was at the pivotal moment that could change the course of their lives forever. But she couldn't shake the unsettled feeling that echoes of the past were closing in, and they were on the brink of a fight that could cost them more than they were prepared to lose. What would happen in the next heartbeat, as she stood toe-to-toe against the darkness? Mia's breath caught in her throat as she faced the leader, the air around them crackling with tension. The diner felt like a pressure cooker, ready to blow at any moment. The flickering lights overhead cast shadows over the leader's features, making him appear even more menacing. Enough with the theatrics, he growled, glancing at his men, who were just as unpredictable as he was. You think your little speech makes a difference? It only makes me want to wipe that look off your face even more. Do it then, Mia shot back, surprising herself. Her voice was steadier than she felt, but she couldn't let him know how scared she was. She took another step forward, ignoring the way Tony's hand clenched tight beside her. You think they'll back you up? The leader's laughter was harsh, echoing in the quiet diner. Look around. None of these people would dare. An uneasy silence fell as patrons exchanged glances, their expressions a blend of fear and confusion. But then, like a flickering flame reigniting, Mia caught sight of an older man sitting at the counter, a scar across his weathered face. His gaze met hers, and she saw a glimmer of something, maybe hope. It's not just about me, Mia stated, meeting the eyes of several other patrons. It's about all of us. We're tired of living in fear. Together, we can stand against anything, even you. The murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, a small but tangible ripple of rebellion. Shut them up. The leader bellowed, turning to his men. His frustration was palpable, fueling an invisible fire that simmered beneath the surface of the diner. But as his goons stirred, the older man rose from his seat. No, he declared, his voice surprisingly strong. We've been afraid too long. It's time we stand up for ourselves. Mia's heart raced as she witnessed him stepping toward her side, joined inexplicably by others. One by one, people were rising, men and women alike, as if she had struck a chord deep within them. See. You're not invincible, she challenged the leader, folding her arms. No one is afraid of you anymore. A flash of uncertainty crossed the leader's eyes as he took a step back, but his bravado returned like a thick fog choking the light. You think a few brave faces will change anything? You don't know what I'm capable of, he snarled, still trying to regain control. You're wrong, Mia said, feeling the weight of the moment shift. She could see the leader's confidence begin to falter, a flicker of sweat beaded on his brow. Every act of courage has the potential to ignite something bigger. What happens when we all decide to fight back? The storm outside intensified, thunder rumbling in the distance, almost as if nature itself was reacting to this standoff. Mia felt a strange sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. It wasn't just about her anymore, it was about everyone in this place, rising against tyranny. The leader rolled his shoulders, trying to dismiss the encroaching doubt. I don't need to fight if I can just make an example out of you, he said, pointing sharply at Mia. That'll shut them up. No. Tony's voice rang out suddenly, an urgent plea filled with raw emotion. You don't need to hurt anyone here. It's not worth it to you. Mia turned to Tony, seeing a depth of fear and bravery behind his eyes. He didn't want to step back in this fight, neither did she. As the leader considered his next move, Mia felt the moment hinge on a knife's edge. You want to do this? Fine. But we'll show you how strong we really are, she said, channeling all the courage she could muster. With urgency gathering like storm clouds, Mia knew this was it. The confrontation was about to reach a breaking point, and she could almost taste the culmination of their efforts. They were on the brink of unveiling the truth of their power, but at what cost? The leader stepped closer, expression darkening, and the tense silence hung heavy in the air. What would he do next? Would he call their bluff, or would he understand that fear had met its match? The answer loomed, and Mia felt the future of the diner and its patrons balanced on the edge of a blade. Would they emerge victorious, or would the darkness swallow them whole? Mia's heart raced as the leader advanced, his shadow seeming to swallow the light around them. A tense silence enveloped the diner, broken only by the rhythmic drumming of raindrops against the windows, a mirror to the storm inside. No more games, he growled, his voice low and threatening. One last chance to back down. But Mia refused. She felt the weight of the moment pressing against her, pushing her forward like a wave crashing against the shore. This wasn't just her fight anymore, it was everyone's. She glanced at the older man, who had stood beside her. His expression was a blend of defiance and resilience. Others around her were no longer on the edges, gripped by fear. They were emboldened, and each face reflected a newfound strength. It was the kind of fire that could melt barriers. I'm not afraid of you, Mia said, her voice rising above the murmurs. You might think you control us, but look around. We're done being scared. And we won't back down anymore. The leader paused, and for a moment, Mia could see the threads of uncertainty weaving through his resolve. It was a crack, small but significant. Perhaps he hadn't expected this response. Perhaps he wasn't the lion he believed himself to be, instead, he was a cornered animal, and cornered animals can be dangerously unpredictable. You think this is a game? He spat, fingers twitching at his sides. I'll make an example of you, Mia. You, and everyone here. Mia swallowed hard, but held her ground. Then you'll only prove us right. You'll show everyone what it means to be a coward, a bully who hides behind fear. You're the one who's scared, not us. As her words echoed in the diner, a stray glimmer of hope sparked within the patrons. A chorus of soft voices began to rise, each woman and man echoing Mia's sentiment. We won't back down. They chanted, slowly at first, then building in strength and unity. You've unleashed something you can't control, Tony added, stepping forward with her. His earlier fear had been replaced by determination. With a sneer, the leader took a step back, his bravado cracking. Enough! He shouted, yet there was a tremor in his voice that revealed his growing unease. Just walk away, and you won't have to face the consequences of your choices, Mia urged, her heart pounding in her chest. This was about more than just them, it was about everyone who had been crushed under the weight of fear, about families torn apart and lives ruined. In his eyes, she saw a fleeting glimpse of doubt, a moment where he weighed the threat of escalating violence against the very real possibility of losing control. Shut them up. He finally barked at his men, his panic bubbling over. In an instant, they moved to comply. Mia's breath quickened. She wasn't done, there was more. This isn't just about fear. It's about understanding we can be greater together. Even if it takes every ounce of courage we have. The men hesitated, caught between their loyalty to their leader and the rising spirit of the crowd standing before them. Then, to Mia's shock, the older man, who had stood beside her, raised his hand. We will not go back to silence. We can speak up, and we will face what comes together. The power of human connection surged through the diner. The leader's face turned ashen. You're all fools, he muttered, his voice strained. You can't fight the inevitable. In that moment, Mia realized something important. They had the power of choice. Yes, they could choose to stand or to crumble. But together, they would not be defeated. As the thunder cracked outside, a new understanding settled over the diner. They were at a crossroads, and the choice laid heavily on all their hearts. Would they choose the path of defiance, or would they retreat as shadows lingered? The storm was brewing, the air electric with anticipation. And as the leader faced the group, the next act of this battle hung like the storm clouds outside ready to burst. What would happen when the weight of choice was finally realized? As the tension thickened in the diner, Mia could feel the heat rising in the room, each shared determination weaving an unbreakable bond among those standing with her. The muffled sounds of stormy wind howled outside, a bleak reminder of the chaos waiting just beyond the glass. But here, surrounded by newfound allies, there was a different kind of storm brewing, one of courage and defiance. The leader's men shuffled nervously among themselves, grappling with the tempest of emotions igniting around them. Mia's heart surged as voices persisted, rallying, becoming louder, a unison of strength that pushed against the weight of fear threatening to suffocate them. Each word, each chant, felt like a collective beating heart, pounding against the darkness that had long enveloped them. With a flick of his wrist, the leader's expression morphed from anger to desperation. "Enough!" he shouted, but the strength in his voice wavered, the metallic edge dulled by uncertainty. Mia seized the moment, stepping even closer, her resolve solidifying. "Do you really think intimidation still works?" she called out. "Your power over us only exists if we allow it to." She took a breath, eyes blazing with fervor. "You've underestimated us. We are not the weak, broken people you think we are. We are survivors." The diner erupted, voices swelling in agreement. The older man, who had stood with her, nodded vigorously, a fire ignited in his eyes. "This is our town, and we want to be run out of it." He lifted his fist in solidarity, and nearby individuals mirrored his gesture, the collective show of strength feeding the atmosphere. The leader looked around, and Mia caught the crack in his armor widen. The look on his face was almost incredulous. Did he not expect this? Did he really think fear could hold them forever? Suddenly, a gruff voice emerged from the back of the diner. "Mia's right." It was Tony again, inspiring backup. "We have built something here, a community. It doesn't just fall apart, because you want to scare us. It grows stronger, because we choose to stand together." Each word pulsed like a heartbeat, driving deeper into the fabric of their unity. Faces that had once been weary now glimmered with hope, an electrifying testament to resilience. Possibly, just possibly, they could take this freedom back into their own hands. But the leader, his eyes darting between the growing defiance and his own fading power, resorted to desperation. "No, this changes nothing. You are still at my mercy." Mia could barely contain her rising thrill at seeing him unravel. "You're wrong. This is the moment that changes everything." She forced herself to take a deep breath, steadying the tremor of her heart. "We will rise, and you will be the one left standing alone. Fear only holds power when we let it." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen as one of the diner workers dropped a tray, momentarily stunning everyone. Silence fell, draped in an eerie calm. "Get back to work," the leader shouted, clawing back some semblance of authority, but it was too late. The force was no longer just verbal. Tension held the gathering in a firm grip. A palpable anticipation existed. Would they choose to fight? Mia felt the cheers of the crowd as they rallied together, their uproar breaking through like a burst of sunlight after a storm. Yet, as fear began to flinch away from the leader, Mia's heart trembled at the uncertainty of what would come next. The stakes were high, and the air was thick with anticipation. Could they stand firm if violence erupted? Would the strength of their gathering be enough to withstand the dark thunder looming? The storm outside raged on, mirroring the tempest within. As decisions were made and lines drawn, Mia felt something crystallize, a conviction that the next moment could alter everything they believed in. What would happen if the fury was released? Would they leap together into the unknown or falter back? Mia's eyes met the older man's, and they shared a fleeting moment of mutual understanding. Somewhere deep down, she already knew the answer. The moment hung, heavy with the weight of unspoken words and impending decisions. Mia's breath quickened as she scanned the faces around her, lit by a flickering overhead light that seemed to reflect the tension in the air. Each person was a story, a chance for change, and she felt every heartbeat with an urgency that rattled her core. "Stay strong," someone shouted from the back, just as another voice echoed through the diner, propelling their spirits further. "We can do this." The sound of encouragement surged like a wave, pushing against the suffocating gloom that had grown around the leader. It was as though the air had cracked open, spilling light into the dark corners of fear and doubt. Mia felt her courage buoyed, the trembling within her transformed into a steady pulse of belief. "You think it's over just because you raise your voice?" The leader spat, his bravado teetering. "You think chanting will save you?" The facade he had clung to was slipping, piece by piece, revealing a man desperate for control. Mia took a step forward. "It's not just noise. This is our refusal to be silent." She thrust her arm forward, fists raised like banners of defiance. "We stand together, and that unites us in ways you'll never understand." Shouts and roars erupted across the diner, mingling with the harsh wind outside. Enthusiasm soared like a firework bursting into color, lighting their path. But just as quickly, a hush fell over the crowd at the sharp crack of a door. The back entrance swung open, and a team of grim-faced individuals poured in, clad in dark jackets, their presence shifting the atmosphere into yet another realm of uncertainty. Eyes widened. Tension coiled tighter. Who were they? They were not part of the original equation. The leader's bravado faltered even more at the sight of his fresh company. "You're late," he barked, irritation wrapping around urgency. "Get rid of them." But instead of lunging at Mia's group, the newcomers seemed even more hesitant. One tall man stepped forward, casting a wary glance at Mia amidst the chaos. There was something almost regretful in his eyes, like he was grappling with a decision larger than himself. "Listen," he said, the gruffness of his voice carried a hint of something softer, almost pleading. "This isn't what it looks like. We don't want any of this. Not anymore." The crowd murmured, confusion painting their faces. Mia stood firm. "Then why are you here? Are you with him?" The man shook his head, shadows of weariness marking his features. "We're here to help. We want to end this." Mia felt a strange twist in her gut. How could help come from a place so intertwined with their suffering? Suddenly, an idea sparking like a match in her mind, she spoke freely, her voice steady despite the whirlwind around them. "If you want to help, then join us. Help us take our community back. Stand with us against this tyranny." She could feel the energy in the room shift again, a vulnerable hope blossomed. The tall man hesitated, uncertainty etched all over his face, but something in Mia's conviction seemed to strike a chord. The air felt electric. "Is what you say true?" he asked, glancing back at the leader, who was pacing like a caged animal. Mia squared her shoulders. "I refuse to let fear dictate our lives anymore. We choose to rise. Will you stand with us?" But before the man could answer, the leader burst forth, fury spilling over. "You're making a mistake. You're siding with a threat. You're playing with fire." The employees at the diner shifted nervously, glances darting among each other, uncertain yet intrigued by the wild turn of their fate. One by one, they began to step a little closer to Mia, faces lighting up with shared determination. Mia could almost feel the moment solidifying, like a handhold forming in the dark. But there was still more to come, and uncertainty clung to the moment like mist. Could they truly band together with a regime that had once oppressed them? Would the leader unveil a darkness they hadn't expected? A charged silence enveloped them, poised on the edge of revelation. What would happen next? Would they find a way to embrace hope, or would the tension unravel them all? The tension in the diner hung like a taut wire, ready to snap at any moment. Mia felt her heart pounding in her chest as she locked eyes with the tall man, the one who claimed to be there to help. The crowd stirred restlessly, whispers cascading through the air. "Your leader is losing control," one of the newcomers stated, his voice steady. He looked over at Mia, his gaze filled with a mix of empathy and urgency. "We're ready to join you. But no more fighting." The leader snarled, stepping forward as if he could physically intimidate them. "What do you think you'll accomplish? You think they'll just follow you? This is their chance to be free, and you're offering them a false illusion." His anger faltered when he noticed faces shifting, people swaying away from him like trees bending in a storm. Mia took a bold step closer to the newcomers. "What is your name?" she asked the tall man. "Ethan," he replied, swallowing hard. "I've seen what this path leads to. You may feel like you're fighting for your freedom, but you risk losing everything. Trust me, we've been on the wrong side of this for too long." Another murmur rippled through the crowd, a mixture of fear and hope dancing in the air like sparks from the flickering lights above. The weight of his words pressed on Mia's chest. She had always thought the enemy was black and white, but now everything felt like tangled threads of gray. "Why should we trust you?" a voice shouted from the back, breaking the spell of silence. It was a familiar face, someone Mia had known all her life, a neighbor whose family had suffered greatly at the hands of the regime. "How do we know this isn't another trick?" Ethan opened his mouth, and the words tumbled out like a well-rehearsed script. "We can share information. We know their plans and we're ready to go against them. But we have to fight this together. If you want safety, we need to unite." Mia felt the eyes of the crowd turn to her, a spotlight igniting hope within her chest. It was a dizzying moment. Could they really build something from the ashes of destruction? "Let us hear him out," she urged, even as a part of her trembled at the thought. "We've endured so much. It's time we decide to reach for something more." The leader's eyes darkened, his frustration peaking. "You're naive. They'll betray you just like the rest. You think they care about you." In that moment, Mia stepped between him and Ethan, heart racing like a runaway train. "Maybe. But what choice do we have? Maybe it's time to let go of old grudges and start a new path. We have to dare to hope." The intensity crackled in the air, tension prickling the skin. One by one, the diners began to nod, their courage fortifying with each passing moment. Encouragement rippled through the room as people took small steps toward Mia and Ethan. "I want to fight for us," she declared, her voice rising above the confusion. "I want to fight for a future." But just as the energy was shifting, a loud crash echoed through the diner. The front doors burst open, and chaos erupted as armed men stormed in, glaring and shouting like a storm of darkness had descended upon them. Mia's heart sunk as panic sprawled across the faces around her. The leader's resolve returned, his hands clenched into fists. "You think you can save them? This is the end." Mia's stomach twisted in knots. What was their next move? Would they stand firm against the tide, or would they be swept away in the storm? Everything she fought for hung in the balance, as the new threat bore down on them. This was not just a battle for freedom anymore, it was a fight for survival. Would they find a way to emerge from the shadows, or would fear tighten its grip once more? Mia stood at the front of the diner, heart racing as the armed men flooded in, fierce and unwavering. Panic spread quicker than wildfire among the patrons, their faces pale with fear as the realization of their fragile situation sank in. Just moments ago, they were on the brink of unity, of hope. Now, intimidation loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to choke their defiance. Everybody stay calm. Tony's voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding, but Mia could hear the tremor beneath the surface. She felt a surge of shared resolve among her fellow diners, pushing against the tide of fear. They had come too far to back down now. Listen, Mia shouted, aiming to reclaim control. We're not afraid anymore. We stand together. Each word resonated with determination, echoing in the hearts of those around her. She felt their energy, their hopes intertwining like threads of a shared tapestry. The leader of the armed men sneered, scanning the room. You think this is a game? He motioned to his men, their faces grim and ready for violence. You're outnumbered. You think you can fight back? Mia's breath caught, a knot tightening in her stomach. But standing her ground, she spoke again, louder this time, forcing the fear down deep. We may be outnumbered, but we want to be silenced. Fight for your lives, not just for yourself. The power in her voice pierced through the oppressive gloom, ripples of courage igniting a fire within the crowd. She locked eyes with Tony, whose fierce determination matched her own. His expression said it all. They were united, side by side. Ethan moved forward, joining Mia. We have information that you don't, he said, a hint of strength in his tone. We know how they operate. If we fight together, we might stand a chance. The armed leader's cocky demeanor faltered for just a moment. Do you really believe you can convince them? He growled, anger curling around his words like smoke. You're all foolish to think you'll win a fight against us. But the murmurs grew louder, bolstered by Mia's vigor. They're right. Someone called from the back. We've suffered long enough. Each voice strengthened the tide, turning fear into a wave of collective strength. Mia could feel the swell building, hearts pumping with newfound bravery, rising against oppression together. Enough. The armed leader spat, frustration veiling his voice. Seal the exits. Panic erupted again, and Mia's heart sank. Time seemed to stretch as chaos enveloped them, some customers rushing toward the kitchen, others pressing against the windows, desperate for escape. But Mia sensed that the force surging through them was more powerful than the fear, a command to choose to fight back. Mia, what do we do? Tony's voice was urgent, eyes darting toward the nearest exit, but Mia felt a surge of clarity. Fight for each other. She urged, grabbing hold of his arm. If they see us united, if they see we don't break, we might just surprise them. The energy in the diner pulsed, charging the air. We want to go back to fear. Someone shouted, and others echoed the sentiment. Mia stepped back and faced the growing wave beside her, feeling immense hope unfurl. Let us show them what we're made of. The leader's men hesitated, exchanging incredulous glances as Mia and Tony stepped toward them, hands raised in defiance. You've dwelt in shadows for too long. Mia shouted, her voice booming above the rising tide of emotion. It's time we take back what is rightfully ours. Emboldened by her words, patrons began to rise, fists clenched, stepping forward in solidarity. We stand with Mia. They declared, voices rising in unison. Even the older man nodded, wearing a proud smile, bearing his scars like badges of honor. The armed leader, realizing his grip slipping, barked a command that sent his men scrambling back, grappling with the unexpected twist. Don't let them overpower you. He roared, but the fierce light in Mia's eyes shone too brightly for him to dim now. Thunder roared outside, as if the heavens were recognizing their stand. The once ominous figures were beginning to buckle. Uncertainty creeping into their ranks. They had seen the strength of a community standing toe-to-toe against tyranny, and it sparked fear within. Together, Mia yelled, pushing against the voices from the outer edges, the clinking of dishes now a distant hum. Love for her fellow diners drowned out any trace of fear that lingered. Today, we choose not to falter. We choose hope, and together, we rewrite our story. Voices rang out, people all around her were chanting, filling the diner with a chorus of collective rebellion. They were powerful, they were compassionate, and together they become unstoppable. As the storm outside raged, they unleashed their pent-up voices with an intensity that broke barriers, transforming the noise of desperation into a symphony of resistance. Mia's heart swelled as she felt invincible, anchored by the unity of all those who had stood beside her. And then, without prior warning, the leader turned to his men. Fear flickered across his face, and in a moment of realization, he began to back away. "This isn't worth it," he shouted, scrambling for safety, determination crumbling as the fire of defiance grew larger, uncontainable. The crowd roared, triumphantly carrying a single sentiment: together, they were stronger than any darkness that threatened their lives. With each echo reverberating in the diner, Mia understood they had crossed into something transformative, a new beginning. Finally, when the last echo faded, there was a moment of silence, a breath held in the air, and in that shared heartbeat, they knew. Today, they prevailed. As calm descended, relief flooded over the patrons, a wave breaking over the shore, their fates intertwined, powerful and hopeful. And as they turned to one another, bonds forged in courage lit the path for the fresh dawn that awaited them. This was the start of a new Millville. Together, they reclaimed their stories, their dreams, and deep inside, they knew that the hope that had ignited them would continue to burn bright, forever lighting their way. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. And please comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your voice. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.